there and how it might benefit them, because it will definitely have potential to benefit them. My expectation is once that's all cleaned up and everything, but I think the valley is going to be beautiful. And as a consequence, will be attractive to developers for housing, for some commercial activity, and possible retail, recreational, and other things there. We have been in contact with, and we're pursuing trying to get funding through multiple sources. We've been in touch and trying to get money through the federal government directly. We are talking to Eagle about funding some components, MDOT about possible funding some components, MEDC and their placement funding program that they're doing. We don't really care how it gets paid for as long as we get paid for it. That's our basic goal. And so I think I mentioned, maybe I didn't, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had a virtual meeting with Congressman Upton asking that he assist with attempting to get direct funding out of some of the infrastructure money that the president has signed off on. So that's where it's going now. And my feeling is that it's about to get into high gear, and this is a point where I want to really start to actively engage components that I think are really important and significant to making this successful. The Brownfield Authority, school district, because when you get on the other side of Britton Avenue, going up to Empire, large piece of that property and it belongs to the school district. And I guess they've owned it since back when that was supposed to have been Benton Harbor College going in there, and it never happened, and they still have the property. We had approached the superintendent and got him to commit that he would be supportive about 2 weeks before he announced that he was leaving, so we'll be working on that too. But it's reaching the point where we're ready for all hands on deck to push it over and really make it happen this time. We think that project has the ability to be a catalyst for a number of other things in the city. So we've got the involvement and support of the township, because part of it runs through the township. We, in fact, we'll be talking just shortly with the Army Corps of Engineers about what role they might be able to play and assist on this. So I've been knocking on every door that we can knock on to get the support that we need to make this project go. I'm anticipating to get everything completed that we'd like to get. We could easily be looking upward $10 or more million to get that done. But I believe the potential for a return on investment is that it could increase the city's tax base anywhere between $50 and $100 million, depending upon the development that occurs afterward. So that's kind of where, but I would like to also just kind of mention, if I might take the liberty to do so, another project that we're working on, I think very shortly, will be requesting assistance from Brownfield also, and that is the Project T up at the Mercy site. They completed doing their initial environmental assessment, and as a result of whatever demolition they did and so forth, I think there are going to be some areas that they're probably going to have to remove some contaminants and dig out some other stuff and so forth. So we may be approaching you about see what we can do to assist with that.
If I may,
Yes.
Madam Chair, thank you. I think it's sad and very unfortunate that my colleagues dropped the ball on, an opportunity that arose to do some free stuff of what we just paid $75,000 for of the Brownfield funds. Miss Valerie Rawls, about 4 years ago, came through here and she was working with, some, professors, that actually, created a substance, to remove contaminants. And they were it was something through the, what do you call that? NASA. NASA has created a substance, and she was working closely with these professors and stuff, and we dropped the ball, and they had access to funding and everything to actually help us get Ox Creek cleaned up. And I could not believe we let that opportunity pass us by, and yet here we are. And we have so many of us, I know I do, amongst us all, that have ideas and things that we want to see for the city, in advancing and creating something that's sustainable to add to our tax base and revitalize our community. And I'm just sorry that we dropped the ball, but here we are. I do know that years ago, before we approved the funds that fixed, is that Fisherman Park and put up the beautiful, landscaping and boardwalk that we one day hope we'd see go all the way down. And that's still possible as well. I'm all for growth. I truly am, but everything cannot, we can't keep doing things and not doing some type of development ourselves, which is something that I've been really wanting to see. And helping aid our youth in the community into some form of entrepreneurship, of building something that they can call their own. Some are interested, not all of them are running around with guns and stuff. And if we don't do something to help to aid that, I'm seeing in my mind and in my heart, I'm still stuck on some things that I've been reading and hearing, just like a dollar ride lately, and how we no longer have a bus station and some other things, and how we just came out of the gentrification with emergency management that came in to dismantle the whole system. And I see it happening, but in another way. Gentrification at its best. And I as a servant, as a public servant, I'm just so tired of the political games that I see played with people's lives, starting in Washington, that trickles down when I thought that all politics started local, and us to show them the way if they would just give us the funding. What I would like to see is is those receipts of the $75,000 that's been geared towards the processes going on now, as we request of other things that we've forwarded money for. I would really like to see us reach out more federally for funding, and it's coming. I truly believe that it's coming, but to just nibble away at what we waited so long for, I don't see happening, and it's nothing that I would support, because it's going to take millions of dollars, and we already know that. We knew it years ago, millions of dollars to fix Ox Creek. What I want to know is, we put something in place and we still have a factory operating over here. Is it letting out anything that flows through Ox Creek? Has anybody been checking on that?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Knott.
Okay, I'd like to ask Mr. Little, what is the mileage of the length of Ox Creek project?
I don't know the exact mileage, but I believe it's just a little over a mile, I believe. I think it's somewhere right around 1.3 miles.
Okay, second question is that I wanted each of us to sort of take a look at us here on the, board here. That, I'm acquainted with, have connections with arborists. And what we dropped the ball once some years ago is when they developed the golf course. We know that the wood has spiked up like everything, the price of wood. As we went to try to, put our, excuse me, I was in an accident, and it takes a little bit for me to pull it together. But, when we put our greenhouse together, the wood, we noticed that the price of wood was spiked up, ridiculously. And we have resources as to down there for all of the wood and trees and everything that are, and they have been stripping some, I guess, testing to see the types of wood that's down there near Ox Creek. We were speaking about that at one time we saw, where they had stripped the tops of the wood. So definitely someone is checking about our types of wood that we have, but there are arborists that we could have to identify the trees that are most valuable. And this is some of our resources that could be toward getting Ox Creek developed and a part of the plan of getting the money, resources of what we need is to get things really rolling. So I think this is one of the things we need to look more deeply at. That was my background is horticulture. And so therefore, I look at the resources that we have already and it's overlooked and it's manipulated at some point. No one knows where or even think about the resources we have, how valuable that is, and even redevelop it. So I'd like to see us take a second look at sometime what we already have. And I know Mr. Little had brought up a fact one time before, and we were speaking about that, and I thought it was a great idea. He saw material that could be reused and I think was fixed alleys and things like that. So sometime our resources that we have right now can help us in a major way in getting a project done. It wouldn't have to pull so much money from one point and strain ourselves for another. So I think we should take a deeper look at what we have already there. That could be a direction to getting monies and funding for the things of cleaning up that Ox Creek and using that wood, selling it. Because it will be resold. If we don't use it, we don't see the values of what we have, someone else will. Ding, there you go.
All right,
In reality, this committee, this body does not own or have any interest in anything at Ox Creek. So the best that anything we could do here was suggest to the city that they take that into consideration. Now, we did fund an assessment, which I'm sure if we had included in there, this demand, it probably could have been delivered because, I don't want to see us throwing away resources. I just don't know how we have any control here with what goes on in Ox Creek when we have no interest or ownership. As far as I'm understanding, we don't have any property on our brownfield list, or in our brownfield that's so there's not really much that we can do. So, but I do think that what you're saying is important enough for, and I'm sure Mr. Little heard you. But that would be the appropriate phrase. I don't know what we can do about any of that, Ms. Kennard.
Get the
What
wood.
happens to the wood down there?
They're getting it already.
I don't see how we can do anything about that here at this board. We don't have any authority. So I think it's important, and Mr. Little is listening to you, but that's why I think that would be moved. I don't think we can move it here.
We'll certainly take that under advisement. We've been noticing that something is going down there. We've even asked the police department to try to monitor. We can't catch or find whoever's doing that.
Again, we don't want to use our time up here solving that problem because it's not ours.
But
But let me say, there have been individuals in here from, I think, Madawan, Kalamazoo area, and they have been specifically looking for walnut. Now, do not take that as me making a conjecture. That was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Sure.
There were some guys here that had been logging for walnut. Now, for $100, you can put a trail cam down there so the police can go somewhere. If McGinnis can't get that figured out, then y'all need to sit at this table and get his butt out.
Okay.
Put a trail cam
All right.
down there.
That's our
$100.
next steps that we're looking at now.
Yeah,
And we
I'll
will
donate
take that
part
under
to the fund.
advisement.
Let's be serious. That's $100. Put a trail cam down there. So I mean, there's certain things we just shouldn't accept. And that's it for us, because we can't do nothing about that. Let's go to the city meeting and let the people sitting here handle that.
You want to add something else?
Yes, ma'am. It just dawned on me, and I need to find the email. I was talking to some people, and I think I mentioned it and had a conversation with Mr. Little about it. It was some people that had been contacting me, and I'm like, why they keep, and I'm looking to see who else is attached to the email, and it's always just me. So I just tried to put it where it needs to be in economic development, and knowing that you were working on Ox Creek. And it was this forestry place, that works with natural preserving, of wildlife and waterways. And I think I handed you the information, but they still contact me and I just haven't answered because I don't know what to tell them. But I'm going to. But my thing is, they mentioned after my brief conversation with them that they were looking at our waterways. So I guess I need to find, because I thought that the city was aware of what was going on. I thought we were working with the Drain Commission to get rid of the trees that were bad.
We are working with Drain Commission, but we're not sure who is done.
Exactly. I'm wondering if it's these people from the forestry place, because they said that they would be coming into different areas.
If you get another.
Supposition.
I
Let
will.
the police put the camera there, let's move on.
Yeah, I like your idea.
Something else.
I mean, that's $100.
They can't do their job.
Yeah.
Okay, don't want to get stuck on this. He's just
Thank
giving us a report.
Well, one of the things that I majorly want to, just make a point of, wood is very valuable. The price of wood has gone skyrocketed.
But Ms. Kennard,
And-
that has nothing to do with what we do here at this body.
That's what I'm saying. If we don't, at least make them aware of it.
I think that
That
we've
is
done
what's
that.
happening here. We never pay attention to our resources. So pass this on to the ones that can do something about it. So that's what I'm trying to do, is
He said he.
at
promised.
least bring the point up so that we can have someone to look at that point, because these are resources, are monies that can be valuable to us. So not close your eyes and say, well, we can't do nothing about it, but make it aware that at least we mentioned it. And so we can miss a golden opportunity by keeping it shut off. So that's the only thing that I want to bring this point up.
Well, we want to thank Mr. Miller for the report. Do you have a projected deadline for when you'd like to see this project completed? With all the people that you got to pull together, the finances you got to pull together, is it a 5-year project, 2-year project?
Actually, we believe that realistically, this could easily be minimally 36 months.
Oh,
But we're going to be pushing to try to do it in that or less. And it's just gonna depend again on how the money
resources.
comes.
Right.
Pulling the resources together.
Right.
Very premature to even
Yeah.
And the source of the
Yeah.
money.
Well, if I may, Madam Chair,
Just make it brief.
I will. This is important.
Okay.
It's not premature. There's some funding that the county has gotten, 38 million, and some of it is supposed to be utilized for all surrounding communities. Now, if the Drain Commission is the county Drain Commission and all of these other entities for as long as Ox Creek goes, now is the perfect time to have the conversation with the county commissioners
Yeah.
to gear some of that funding, some of those millions, instead of public safety, for something that all residents here and near and far will benefit from. And we have not because we ask not, and I think that it's time that they be approached.
We've asked and we're going to be asking again now.
We need to get some residents to go over there and demand.
Well, the drain commissioner, he is on board. When they were Sure,
It's gonna be-
I ran into him down there.
He's not the decision maker, it's the
No,
county
but I'm saying
commissioners.
that his
Yeah.
name come up a couple of times. He's well aware of things that's going on.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it, and keep us informed.
Just a point of clarification, those funds that you committed to have not been released
I haven't seen
Which funds?
for the Ox Creek.
Okay,
They're still
But when
sitting in
they
your
do,
bank account,
and they are.
waiting for the documentation. And Mr.
Okay.
Little's fully aware of that.
Good deal, thank you, Mark.
Okay, next.
Madam Chair, there's one other item in the communications, and I'll be very brief. The Downtown Development Authority reached out to me, their president, Richard Hensel, to talk a little bit about the theater property, the Liberty Theater. I believe that's the one, Liberty Theater. I'm looking at Mr. Edwards because he's on the DDA also, and Mr. Little's been involved in those conversations. It's my understanding, and gentlemen, please correct me if I'm wrong, the owner of that property has offered to give it to the DDA. The DDA, however, has been struggling in the acceptance of that for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is they don't have counsel on board, legal counsel, to facilitate the transfer of that property. They reached out to us in hopes that perhaps we might know of someone, some attorney that would assist them on a pro bono basis because they have very limited funds presently. I gave them a couple of names. Apparently it didn't work out. Mr. Hensel has not asked for any financial assistance from this authority. If he were to do so, the only thing that you would be able to do if you chose to would be to make them a loan. You can't grant them any money because it's not a brownfield issue.
To do what?
To facilitate
I
the
said Mr.
transfer of
Hensel
this
should come
property.
to this committee for-
I'm making you aware of it because I wouldn't be surprised if he does.
I missed what he said.
Let him finish. Go ahead.
They don't have an attorney that can facilitate the transfer of ownership of this property.
And it belongs to the Brownfield?
No, it belongs to a third party.
Oh, it has nothing to do
But
with us.
this goes to the issue of you collaborating with other city entities, the DDA being one of them.
Okay, because I would think that the person that just opened up a business next door would, hey,
Wanted you to be aware of it.
yeah.
That's all I had,
Yeah, I
Madam
think they
Chair.
should come here formally, and that would start that process. Other than that, we shouldn't be talking. They're the one asking for
Yep.
stuff. Next item.
Anything else?
No, ma'am. Public comment.
We actually
Do
do.
you know something?
I'm leaving it in 5 minutes.
Okay,
But I wanted,
next item.
oh, okay, I just wanted to, I didn't know if it would be appropriate now, just wanted to, leave my decision with the banking thing. So I don't know if that would
That's
be
something that would be.
appropriate or not. I don't know if we're voting on it today or not.
Mhm.
We vote on it?
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
Ms. Warren hasn't, I think that we can wait for her. It's nothing that we have
Well,
to
since
press
this is the
for.
question that I want to
Right,
ask.
because I have to leave in
Yeah, he's
about
got
5
to.
minutes.
We want
We
to
won't
know.
vote
But why
without you.
did you want, I don't know, why did y'all want the downtown bank to have the bank in the first place? Why did you want the bank here to have it?
Because it
Because
just
they were
seems
local.
fair
Well, why don't
But it
you?
had nothing to
To-
do with
to
what's
start
on the
looking
table
around.
now, so we don't
Say,
need
no,
to
no,
rehash
say
that.
what?
to start banking with our own in our own community, trying to stay together in one piece as a community.
So
It was just something that made sense to me.
and it's changed now.
Yes.
No, and not for me, it hasn't,
Yes.
because they've gone through a transition and hopefully they've gotten their act together.
It went from chemical to TCF to Huntington.
I think we have an action item on the floor that Mr.
No, we don't have action
Commissioner,
items.
yeah, Commissioner Edwards has asked that this committee
But I'm
bring
asking,
it to
but
the
I'm
floor.
knowing if
and
we're
let's go
voting,
vote.
then I would like to do it before I leave, just
Mhm.
to,
Well, we're waiting for Miss, you said you want to
Well,
wait on
we
her.
don't-
For our,
wait
for
all
our
day on it.
treasurer,
Yeah,
the one that's been working with Mark closely.
yeah, I
and
understand, I was
it's
just
fair.
asking,
Yeah,
just
it
in
was a
case, I
question,
didn't want
it
it to
wasn't
be
a
an
motion.
absentee vote.
We waited this long.
Yeah,
It-
we'll
we
call
got
you.
enough
Yeah.
to do it.
We can call you,
Okay, so I, yeah, that worked.
make sure somebody here got the number. Make sure we give you a call so we'll vote to you.
And when you get down to the DDA part, he just covered what I was gonna cover.
Okay, Mark,
So public comment, or are we into,
we had public
Next item.
comments?
We don't have any public, so we'll move all the way down to treasurer's report.
Do we have any committee reports?
No.
Oh. Yes.
Outside of, I'm
Committee-
sorry.
You have a committee report?
I don't know if it would be a committee report or not, because we never did it since I've been here. It's all about Parks and Rec, and I just became co-chair then. So I don't,
No. Is
No.
that from this board?
no, it's from the city.
All right. Okay, then we have, treasury report.
Financial
That can be
reports.
heard too.
Financial reports, Madam Chair and members. If you turn to page 16 of your packets, those of you who have them, you have a balance sheet.
So did you have other packets other than the two?
The ones you were emailed.
Okay, hold on, let me see if I need that.
This would be on page 16 of that email packet.
Okay.
The assets, as of the end of March, your cash was a little over $954,000. Your accounts payable were about $7,587. That leaves you with an equity, basically, of $951,836. Your year-to-date March income statement, which is on page 17 of that same packet, has income year-to-date of $230,533. You had expenses totaling $117,944. Of that, roughly $15,000 was your advisor's expenses and your accountant's expenses, which incidentally is significantly under your budget. That leaves you with a net income, or i.e. profit if you were in the private sector, year-to-date of a little over $112,588. You're doing good. That is your financial report as of March. And the statements are included within your packets.
Sorry, did I miss the whole meeting?
No.
No, you did.
We waited for it.
Move
We're
to
waiting for it.
accept the report.
I have
Thank you.
questions.
Okay.
Um,
Get a second.
Okay. You have a question?
Well, I
Make a
need to
motion
accept the report, and I would
No,
assume
make
that
a
is
mo-
also to pay the
No,
bills.
just a moment. Just a
Not
moment,
yet.
Mr. Hudson. I want to make a motion to, what about the,
Oh, well, he made the motion.
you seconded?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
questions
okay.
and concerns? Any questions and concerns? Hearing none?
No, she said she had a question.
Okay.
Oh,
You have a question?
My question is, it goes back to something that we've already initially discussed over and over and over. It's problematic for Plant Moran to be getting paid at the funds that they do when we don't have a meeting, when all it takes is a half an hour, somebody copying and pasting something. That's problematic. It's not to you, Madam Chair?
Mhm.
You don't find it problematic for us to pay someone that amount of money, even an hour of someone's time? For that amount of $500 to copy and paste something and we haven't had a meeting? That's problematic.
We gave them the contract for the bill.
Would you send us that contract?
Certainly.
Okay,
And,
with our dates
Yes.
of, someone requested that as well while you're writing
They have
my
a
Certainly.
contract, and in that contract, we
dates
just
of
cannot stop
expiration.
because they are cut and paste, as you say.
No,
They have
we
a
can look
And
and,
we have to abide by the contract that we gave them, and that's what we paid for.
okay, but we can also, if
And we
their
can go
contract,
through, yes,
if their contract is up,
yes.
we can seek other,
We could put out some RFPs.
yeah, because Chris used to do it, did she not?
Well, no,
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 It was Plant Moran still.
Glenn Moran. We wrote, recall about a year and a half ago during COVID, we wrote an RFP for this
Yes.
service, and you had a subcommittee that was
Okay,
formed
she
for
was-
that.
they were the
That
ones,
was
yeah.
shelved at that
Okay.
time,
Okay.
and you decided to stick with Plant Moran.
Yeah,
yes.
during that time, yeah. So I just wanna know when it comes back up again, we'll RFP it again.
I can put that out in your next packet.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got a motion on the floor?
It's seconded as well.
Yes.
Roll call.
Roll call. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call?
This is to approve the financial statements. Kennard,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes,
Hall,
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Payables?
Also have a payables listing. Your payables listing begins on page 18. For those of you who have your packets, there's a listing of $4,225. That represents 3 months of services for the aforementioned Plant Moran as well as myself. The detail of those invoices are also provided. We're looking for your approval to pay those bills.
Pay your bills.
Need a motion? Need a motion?
Was it a motion?
Mr. Hudson?
Okay,
Move
need a
to pay the
second?
bills.
Second.
The motion second. Are there any questions, concerns?
Yes.
Okay,
If you would be so kind, Mr. Florian, as to give us some idea as to what the costs are for other brownfields when it comes to services, because I think we would probably be in line, and then maybe my fellow commissioner would, would feel a little bit more comfortable in paying the fees. But I understand what you're saying. If it's $2, we should be concerned. I think we will probably be in line. That would probably be of an advantage to, to his body.
Understood. I'll reach out to several authorities and see what I can come up with. It's all public record, so we ought to be able to get it.
Don't spend a day, but, just take a half.
Oh, come on.
No, but I'm just saying, I think that will
any other
pay all of this
questions,
to rest.
concerns?
I mean, one of, I can,
Okay.
one other comment that we could do, I don't know if it's possible, but when Mark does the research is, I don't know if it's possible if we don't have a meeting when we write the new contract, we put that in there as a discounted rate if there's no meeting. If Commissioner Adams is saying it's just a copy and paste on the new contract, if they're doing a good job, if it's not broken, I don't know if you wanna give it to somebody with no experience, but if it's, we can write it in there. If we don't have, a meeting during Christmas or,
What is it to discuss?
could it
I
be,
mean,
We can
a
easily,
lower
it's
rate.
our contract. We can do
Yeah,
whatever we
so
want
that's
to
just a
say, all of it.
suggestion.
Okay. Roll call.
All right, this is for payables approval. Warren,
Yes.
Kennard,
Yes.
Adams,
How much was that? Oh, yes.
Hudson,
Yes,
Edwards,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, since Ms. Warren is here, and we're gonna go back to the bank proposal, maybe you can say a few minutes for that. So, what are you gonna do with that?
All right, once again, you have a summary that I handed out. Ms. Warren, I made one, you probably did as well. Compares the banking proposals that you received to what you're currently doing in Huntington. I don't know that I need to go through it. If you would like me to, I'd be happy to. The highest paying interest rate on these proposals would come from Honor Bank. All of the proposals provide free checking. None of them have fees. So interest becomes a significant factor. Online banking is also a significant factor. However, all three institutions, other than the one you're at, provides online banking with read-only access to those persons that you would designate. The only other differentiating factors that I was able to see is that Fifth Third happens to be the depository for many other city funds. City of Benton Harbor keeps many accounts at Fifth Third. Honor Bank, they provided the only entity that provided the long written proposal that I just handed out to you. And as I mentioned to some of the members earlier, one of the things that I noted in there is they had a whole page or 2 pages of their contributions in support of Benton Harbor activities, whether it's the Benton Harbor wrestling team,
They should.
Benton Harbor
They
teachers,
got rich right here and then they
whatever.
left.
But the point is that they had over $90,000 donated in 2021, for whatever that's worth. I need your direction.
Okay. Mr. Hudson,
looks very simple. We only got one item to consider here,
what do you
that's
say?
the interest. And in that respect, I asked Mark in terms of what I recall reading in the honor proposal, they indicated something about having a $250,000 amount that they would cover under comparable FDIC, okay, depository insurance.
I think you're referring to enjoy the rates that they proposed, you had to maintain a certain deposit level. Is that what you're asking?
No, I thought that they referred to depository coverage in $250,000 amounts. And I cannot pull up, my phone doesn't have enough.
I have it on my phone. I
I
don't recall
think it's
reading.
going to be right here. But other than that, I think that they clearly went out, you know. They went out. They went out with Fifth Third, and they went out with,
While y'all thinking, I really wanna go back to,
I want to answer it for you.
okay,
As a
I think-
elected official for the city of Benton Harbor, I had that same question, and I wanted to know why Benton Harbor, so many accounts was in one place in space. And then before chemical got to, other people got to plan and interest and just buying and purchasing or buying out a partnership or whatever before they went into this name change thing, I found out the mere fact that the reason it was happening was because they don't have Benton Harbor's accounts. And that was problematic, because if Fifth Third has it, all other banking institutions that want to do business with Benton Harbor should have it. Because if they don't have it, how do they know what type of interest rate to deal with us up on if they want to do business with us? It's been happening for too long. And when I found that out, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Honor started in Benton Harbor as a teacher's credit union and got rich off the backs of the educational system, and now we don't even have them in the community within our 4 square mile. We have to go outside to, and everybody want to do business, choke the life out of Benton Harbor.
my question is, we asked, why did you want to do business with, chemical at that time? You said
It was
because-
all right.
You said it was because it's a city-based bank. We want to do business to keep, business, in our city because it's here and it's just popular. And I understand that because they do have our account, they closed several Huntington, chemical banks, they closed several. And the only one they kept was the one here and the one out in township, because I think they had a substantial amount of finances based upon the city's account. Now, from what I understand, they was not giving you good information. But I spoke with Mark and I said, Mark, I felt that you should have gone to the top because we do have a substantial amount of money in this bank. If these little clerks didn't know what was going on and couldn't give you the information, you should have gone to the top and spoke to the president. Look, we've got this bank here. It's the only bank in our community. We want to keep it here. We need some good response and some good communication for us to do business with you. And give them a chance because they was in transition. So while they was in transition, I can't understand why you want to move it when you went through all this to get it to them. And that's costed Mark, all these papers he wrote that they went.
Exactly,
so
you
that's
just
work.
answered your own point. He got paid for what we pay him to do.
So
Yeah.
It's,
we don't mind Mark getting paid for whatever work he does.
Mark
I'm not
does
gonna
good, no,
digress
Mark,
The point should be
Just
that
a moment.
there were some other things that you are missing.
well, just a
We
moment,
should let Miss Santana.
well, but just a moment, just a moment. We have to, of course, Mark is our, our staff. He is going to do what we ask him as a board to do, as a board. And this is the board that we have to deal with, it has nothing to do with Mark. This is the board, but if you're gonna keep, I always say a double-minded person is very unstable. We just got this stuff done. Now we're going back over the board again because we couldn't get 2 or 3 answers, and they were going through transitions. So how do we, as a board, stay substantive? Stable, and do
Have our
communication
meetings,
in our community with some people. That's the only bank we have here, the only one.
have our meetings.
Just-
Miss Earl,
Yeah.
I was just as vehement and vociferous as you
Well, so
when it
what's
came
the
to
problem?
moving the account. But we have had 2 discussions where it was agreed at this table to spend our money to have him seek proposals to
Why?
make a change.
Why?
And I
Because
think
that's
that
our
number
choice.
one, if we
Why?
let Ms. Santana
Thank you.
speak,
Why, Ms. Santana?
she can speak a little bit more distinctly
Okay,
to it.
so I wanna quickly kind of go through.
And they didn't want the fact that you guys were gonna have to sign certain
Yeah,
forms
so let
in
me
order
quickly
to
just
activate
remind
and execute
everybody
on
of
that
the
account.
process within a minute, hopefully I can get done here. So
Thank
when
you.
I first joined Brownfield, time is flying, I don't know if this was a year and a half ago or what,
Uh-huh.
but when I first joined, the conversation had just been had about everyone wanting a bank in Bentonville. So,
Thank you.
so basically, I think it was Mr. Hudson that was kind of leading, he was spearheading getting the bank changed to Benton Harbor, and that's kind of when I came on board with that bank. And what Mr. Hudson, or what was said was, we really wanted something in our community. And so everything was changed overnight. Again, that was when I first started. Over the course of the time of me being treasurer, what happened was we learned a lot of things. First of all, the customer service was deplorable. It was the worst customer service that I had ever seen. I don't want anyone to walk away belittling it, saying, oh, we couldn't get 2 answers, we couldn't get 3 answers. You named it, we emailed. It wasn't like we just said, oh, we can't get an answer. Oh, well, let's move. It was consistent. And I didn't bring all my notes, but I could always pull them up. It was pages and pages and pages of an email that Mark had resent and resent and resent. And I want to remind everybody that I have a job. This is not my job. I do this because I want to help the city. I want to volunteer. But I'm running for, I don't have the time in my schedule to consistently go to a bank over and over and over, call them when they should be doing their job and getting me the information. So in any case, what I ended up learning by taking extra time meeting with Miss Linda, I learned that our account was not in Benton Harbor whatsoever. It was an office out of, I think it was Detroit. Again, I have all this documentation. Because we already discussed it, I'm not prepared to show you, but I can always pull it up. I believe they said it was in Detroit, Michigan. They handle our account. Linda was just she was the young woman, she was the woman in Benton Harbor, in downtown Benton Harbor, who we thought was handling our account. And that was not accurate. She was just helping us out. And we're going to her asking for statements, and she said, I'm doing you a favor. That was not even in her job description. The Detroit office is who we were told that was actually handling our account. That's not Benton Harbor, that's Detroit. And so we then got contact with the Detroit office, and the same thing happened over and over. We couldn't get answers, we couldn't get our statements on time. And on top of all of that, one of the things that I never agreed with, but again, I really wasn't on the board, was we went to a lower paying interest account. It's simple business. You know, you go into a lower paying account, and then you're not even dealing with Benton Harbor, you're dealing with Detroit. So to me, and again, we discussed this already, it's no logical reason why we should have stayed. So I feel like when we talked about this, the correct decision was to be made for Mark to come with this information. So again, I have all that documented. I'm not prepared with it because I didn't know we were gonna rediscuss it, but I'd be happy to put it together for anyone who needs to see it.
I'd like to move that we select.
Just a moment, I'm not asking for, well,
What
you
do
can
you
put a
mean?
motion.
I can motion for the floor. and
But
talk.
wait a minute,
No,
I
we
didn't
can
get
still discuss
clarity.
it. We still can discuss it.
I don't know if
Yeah,
you
because
need
you can
something.
still discuss.
Mr.
it. I can
Edwards,
move
come
and
on.
sign.
Oh, just one, excuse me, Chair. City Manager Mitchell says, before you leave the building, can you come see me?
all he had to do is email me. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I would like to move that we select Honor as our
I need clarity
custodial account.
before, we were still debating and discussing
You
this
want
matter.
the staff to make a recommendation if we're gonna do
I want to say
Based on-
something.
the interest and what have you. The staff has to make a recommendation as to what would be the best one for us to take.
He does not have to make a
I-
recommendation to this board. If we ask him,
We can, okay,
he's already given you.
he's given
Okay.
us the information that
Thank
he
you.
sent him to get.
Yes.
I have
But
a
he
question.
doesn't tell us how to vote.
To say, no, you can't tell us how to
Oh,
vote,
She
okay,
didn't
so-
say that.
but as a staff, he could, and we could say yes, no. maybe.
Exactly. So before we make a decision, I have a question because I was trying to listen to Ms. Warren and I fully understand. But we all need to fully understand this. Whirlpool is in Benton Harbor, as a lot of corporations have smaller entities in other places where they have corporate headquarters somewhere else. I don't have a problem with it being in Detroit or anywhere else.
As long as we get our
Just,
tax paid.
exactly, just take
As long
care of
as
our
they take care
business.
of our business.
And I really apologize, and I hate that you had to go through all of that, because I saw the communication and it's ridiculous. And I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt since they were in transition. All I want to know is, did they get it together?
Did they? I don't. Did they
I feel
not?
like, no,
Nothing's
and
changed.
also, we had, one of the more recent things you might recall, I think Mark shared it, or if not, we discussed it, was there's not a good way to get the information. We talked about that a couple
Correct.
months ago. It's not a good way. So essentially, with what he's saying is, with the banks on this paper, well, minus Huntington, the three banks
Chase.
here, I don't know, but he didn't look into that. I'm referring to the information we have in front of us here. We can have a read only, so someone can go in there, read only, and they can prepare our documents. There was not a way to do that with the previous bank. Essentially, I would have to be the one going in there. I couldn't request statements. I tried to, it was just one nightmare after another. They gave me
Oh,
directions on how to get the
okay.
statement. They were inaccurate. Oh, we made a mistake. Another person gave me directions on how to get the statement. Then finally, we found out I couldn't even print the statement from the website. It had to be a different one, which we had to pay for that particular account to do that. So if we have in front of us, number one, it almost feels like it's a no-brainer. We have a higher interest, and we also have a way that the information can get to the proper parties quickly at everybody's fingertips.
Okay,
I guess.
Last time we didn't,
so,
when we were here, we didn't discuss about interest, what it costs, what it would take, because they said, no, we just want it at this bank, because it was costing us to move it.
it
from
was,
Fifth Third.
it was just basically us trying to keep all of our business and place our business in Ben Harbor.
And so,
But my question to Mark is, before we make a vote on this, is what I'm saying is Fifth Third being the greater.
that's what
And I mean,
we-
okay, that may be you used to it, I know. What I'm saying is Fifth Third is offering us the greater.
How?
No,
In what
no, it's a
area?
question
Oh,
that to direct it to our consultant.
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
stats is right here. on the
Okay,
paper.
but
Mark, she has.
The greatest interest rate, if that's what you're asking, and the greatest level of service with interest rate would be Honor.
okay,
The second highest interest rate
okay.
would be with
Okay.
United Federal.
Oh, those are the interests. Okay, okay. Okay.
If that's
Only
answer your
things that
question.
we got here are
Okay.
interest rate.
All right, Mr.
I just
Hudson,
don't know why
all
we're
right.
taking all this time. That's-
Because my understanding
Well,
and
because
comprehensive
each
level
board
is not
member
like
has
yours.
a right.
Please allow
Just a
me.
moment, Mr. Hudson, we know that you deal in finances and we don't.
Exactly, you're the
But
brightest.
each board member has a right to speak and say and put their.
I just
I agree
explained
with
to
you. I
Mr.
agree.
Hudson that my comprehensive level is
Yeah,
not
I'm
as
trying to-
magnificent
no,
as
no, no.
Everybody has a
I'm not
right.
accepting that.
Everybody has a right to make a decision as to how they think.
Okay,
We cannot take nobody's thought process here.
okay, come
Everybody
on.
thinks the way they
Let's do
some people
business.
think for Army, some people think for this. But I will say, we had very good communications with Fifth Third when we were there. We had no problems with Fifth Third. And that's why when we were here, I told y'all, I said, I'm not for moving it,
Okay, wait,
but
water
it's
under the
done, it's
bridge.
done. Now,
Water under the bridge.
now I hope that we don't have to have this double
We
minded
might.
stuff and get. this
It's not
communication
double-minded,
again.
it's choices and changes that we have the authority to make.
One day.
It
you
has
have
nothing to
this
do with
mind-
double-minded
yes, it
because
does. One day. you have this
double-minded
mind-
people shouldn't assume that other.
Yeah.
Can we get the recommendation from our treasurer?
Well,
That's what I
and
want to
I-
hear.
And what I would,
But
what
I
I make
hope you don't
sure
have these problems
that
anymore.
I believe, and again, I was just joining the
Yeah.
committee, but if I'm understanding what the thought process was,
Uh-huh.
the thought process was, everyone thought it was in Benton Harbor, so that's why you guys
So let's
changed it.
don't
No,
go
no.
through
And then
that.
we learned,
Please,
I was trying to make it clear.
Give me
Wait,
your,
Mr. Hudson.
give me
The
your
bank is,
recommendation.
no, just a moment. I'm tearing this for the bank is in Benton Harbor.
Correct.
Okay, the Fifth Third, my account is in Ohio, New York.
But who handled our account was not,
Oh,
that's the
yeah,
key
yeah.
thing.
All of
Person
it
who
Columbus,
handled our
Ohio.
account.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Come on,
right.
how many quick land?
But to keep the taxpayer Thank you, that's what I thought you were dealing with, because it was put here. Now, they can move it out and they can close it down, so if you wanna close bank here, and we have to run out to the township, or run over to St. Joe, or run out to the, what you call it, then that's an entity that we will no longer have. And I said,
Whatever it is though, Madam Chair, it doesn't call for anybody assassinating another board's member character on any level,
Right.
calling them double-minded.
Well,
We
I-
are a board of individual thinkers
Yes, yes.
that have the authority to make our own decision, and we made it, and
Yeah.
now we're about to make another
Okay,
one.
fine.
And I would like to hear Mrs. Warren's,
Okay, but I'm not
recommendation.
calling no board member double-minded. I said it's a double-minded thought.
same thing.
Okay, but I didn't call nobody a double-minded.
But who are you
Because
talking
we
about?
I'm
Was
just
there a
saying,
second to
when you
my
do one
motion?
thing and then you go back to do
Can we
something
get
else.
a
Let's move it.
recommendation
Let's
from
move
our
it.
treasurer?
Okay, so my recommendation is honor based on number one, the race, based on number two, the view online banking. And I also love this little part about their helping the community.
And if there's a motion, I
I move.
support.
Okay.
No,
I
Mr.
move
Hudson,
to support it.
Okay, there any other questions?
motion, support.
Okay, any other questions, concerns? Yes. No other questions, no other concerns? Okay,
Yes.
roll call.
Kennard,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes,
Edwards is gone. Hall,
No.
I would like to,
Warren,
Yes.
Madam Chair, motion passes.
Yeah, okay, fine. And we can move on to the next.
All right, that brings us down to old business. We have
Business?
one item in old business, that's Bell Holdings. I received a call from Mr. Bell inquiring as to what the status was. Recall back in October, you took this matter up. You'd received a letter from him expressing interest in what we call the old depot property, a property you own down at the corner of North Shore and Water Street, right by the railroad tracks. It adjoins property that he owns. He would like to acquire it. He would like to utilize it for a parking lot to support his business at that location. He initially sought that property to be donated to him and has subsequently suggested that he'd be interested in paying a couple $1,000s for it. There's been no formal response to his inquiries, and he's again reached out asking if what you might like him to do, if anything. Are you interested in selling it to him at all?
yes, we should be.
Wait a minute, waiting on the chair to recognize somebody.
I don't see nobody.
Oh, I need to go with you.
Yes, Commissioner. Yeah, Adam.
Somebody is about to speak.
Commissioner Adam.
Thank you. When I go that way, and I'm sure everybody else does too, and you gotta admit, the old building is gone, and just the greenery itself of just clear land, of watching trees, there's something about trees and water that's peaceful. And when you ride that way, it looks nice and peaceful, without that old building being there. Somebody came before us and wanted to do a project, and there were two entities that were going head and head, and we were hoping that they could, black and white, hoping that they could get together and maybe do a venture together with maybe one person on top and another on bottom, or however they worked it out, but just to get something open and sustainable and taxable for the community. It didn't happen, and that's been quite a long time. Now we have a business owner that owns an existing property. It has a nice size parking lot on the other side. The building is pretty large, and maybe he wants to do some other things. I can see a nice landscaping area and a nice little parking lot or something there. And this is what we do. There's a business that's going to be bringing major dollars back into this community in the future for the type of business that it is. I think it's opportunity for us to give back to a person that's been a treasure, one of our professional ball players. That legacy didn't last long, but he's working on some other ventures of creating some jobs in the community. And I think it's an opportunity to give back to a person that has grown up in this community as a business owner. I say, because it's not our money, it's the taxpayer money, and they've been taxpayers. So this is an opportunity for us to give back to a taxpayer that we donate the property to, Mr. Joy Bell.
Mr. Hudson,
That is my
Mr. Hudson?
suggestion.
First question, do we have an approved protocol for disposing of property at this time? And I would-
No.
I guess- Okay, so in the absence of that, whatever we do that is in the interest of this board's objective in the city is going to be the right thing. I, for one, do not believe that a parking lot on that piece of property is of any advantage to the city. If I'm not mistaken, that is the central business district. So there can be no requirement where occupancy would be infringed, okay, based on parking. Our job should be to bring that and every piece of property under our control or auspices back onto the tax roll at its highest value, not a parking lot. That's, to me, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Okay, Ms. Vaughn?
Okay, so the first piece is gifting. I feel like you have to be very careful about special treatment. If you're a city and you gift a piece of land, what if I come to you guys, I'm on the Brownfield, can you give me some land? I'll take it. So I kind of feel like, I'm just giving an example. I'm saying that I just don't like the thought of gifting one individual land, because what if we have another ball player comes here and say it? So I just think that's not a good idea to do gifting, so that's the first piece. The second piece is, do I think the land could be sold? I definitely would agree with that. However, and I feel like we've already discussed this before, I think it should be sold at market value. Not at, oh, let me make up a random number. I think we should do what anyone else would do, have a realtor take a look at it, give you, what the vacant lots near in the area, it's called a competitive market analysis, and tell us what the property is worth, and discuss with him like you would do any buyer. Just say it's worth 30K and they offer 20, you negotiate. It's very common practice in real estate, and that's what I would recommend we do, versus saying, oh, let's scratch his back and let's give him something we wouldn't give to someone else. I think with a city, I would be very, very cautious to doing, I call it special treatment for specific people.
Is that it?
So move.
Thank you. Ms.
I agree that, it's a responsibility to Brownfield to keep it cut and keep it up and everything. So to have get that load lifted up off it would be a great idea, and like Ms. Santana said, and, sell the property, but have it evaluated as the cost of what, the property would be worth, and to, get it sold. Far as our controllers tell the person once they buy it, what they can do with it, I think that wouldn't be the right thing to do, if they expect them to do what we want done with it once they buy it.
Every piece of property in this country has limitations. and you're told what you can do.
Mr. Hudson, you've had your say.
What?
Mr. Little?
I would like to, for one, request that you put on hold taking any action on the property. And if you wish to just dispose of it, I would talk with the city manager and the commission about the city buying that property from Mr. Hudson said property is at a premium in downtown, and especially along that strip. And property should be put to its highest and best use. After all, what we are all supposed to be about is increasing the city's tax base, its jobs, and that kind of thing. And I would simply say that that existing situation is not operational. There's a lot of issues there.
You know it too.
Yes.
Well, a whole lot of money to fix it.
I still got
Mr.
my hand up. I think that in that interest, we should be having a policy that we are following with that in mind. And I really don't have a problem meeting with someone for a couple hours for us to put that together. Let's vote on it and get this property out there. And to speak to Ms. Warren, there is no God of real estate values. Okay, so there are numerous ways that we can value this property, but as far as listing to somebody.
I didn't say anything about listing.
Well, you
I
said
said
that we should
competitive
take their
market.
valuation.
Yeah,
I think
that
that
makes
we are
sense.
able, okay, to let the market, because really the market, when you use the term market, that requires buying
We're
and
not in
selling.
real estate, so.
But I'm just saying, so I think that's what will be the best thing in determining what this property would go for. And if we have a decent policy, doesn't have to be but a paragraph or two, it would take that into consideration.
For our properties.
And we can start disposing of everything that we own. Because as long as we own it, there's no taxes.
Okay, Commissioner.
Yes, I've spoken with Mark and I read the documentation and it sounds like, our economic development, director has as well and very aware of the contaminants that still dwell on the property, which others probably don't know. So with that being said, it could be very costly. Am I right, Mark? To finish up the cleanup that needs to take place?
Depending on what you're gonna put there.
Exactly, which you were the one that said, that suggested that if Mr. Bell chose to do a parking lot, then that's the only way he can probably get away without having to spend those type of funds to finish the baseline work and everything that needed to be done, if I'm correct. I really appreciate what Ms. Warren has said because she shed some light on something that makes a lot of sense. But then after thinking about it, you're absolutely right. But we're talking about an African American, and not to make everything black or white, it's small business over corporations. Cause see, we're talking about millions that we've given to corporation locally.
This
And
committee.
to not
that's yours,
choke,
Not this one.
not choke, wait, let me finish.
Yeah, let her.
No, right down here on the Sears property, where an indoor hotel was supposed to be. We can't choke the life out of a small business person and give corporation millions and millions of tax breaks. So and I'm not being double-minded about it. I'm looking at the whole picture. How we have a small business person that has come back home and opened up a business and want to create jobs in their own community. I think if something else went up on that property, it would take away from the view. If you didn't understand what I was saying earlier. And I can remember as a little girl, it being a station there.
Yeah.
Not the station that's right there, but the train used to actually stop on both sides of the track sometimes. And it was a beautiful sight. But now it's even more beautiful because you can see the landmass. And if a building goes there, you will no longer be able to see the landmass of the beauty. So that's why I just said a
Okay,
parking
thank you.
lot. And if he chooses to purchase the property and do a parking lot, the future use, if in fact whoever does what, I think that it should be something within a contract to where if it's not utilized for the purpose intended, that it reverts back. And that was the same statement that was put into a document for that Sears property down there that started a big fight.
Okay, Mr. Hudson.
Okay, then what we should do, I think, again, is come back to this board with a policy. I hear Commissioner Adams' appeal. As far as I'm concerned, every place you put a building,
Yeah.
it's got an elevation that blocks the view. If there is nothing that can be done there on that piece of property economically, so that it is viable to some investor or developer, then I would think very wholeheartedly about her suggestion.
How long has it been empty?
Just, go ahead, Brian.
Excuse me.
You finished?
Yes, and so I don't think we're gonna be able to vote on that here today.
No.
No.
So we should come back with a policy, and it shouldn't take more than a month to go ahead and dispose of this property.
Okay,
Get
let
rid of it.
me
What
say
we
this,
doing?
let me say
interested
this
parties.
to the board.
Yeah.
We forgot this board is the arm of the city. Based upon the economic development, and I think if Mr. Bell, and if we do have this property for sale because we did clean it up, and if the city has a plan, and if they feel that Mr. Bell can go to the city and work it within his plan, and see if the city will agree with that, and then we could and we could clean up the rest of it, if the city wants it done, we could clean it up
Yep.
based upon, on this. So, but
But
it has to go through and Mr. Bell will work with you and see exactly what could be done and work in together with the city's plan, because you are the economic development, and he would understand that. And we would have to, he would have to say, no, we could clean it up if it comes to the city, because it is part of the city. So I think that would be the best.
And the city would be very appreciative of that, because realistically, and we don't want to disparage anything, but that's not really even a going concern at this point.
What? What's not?
Mr. Bell's business.
Oh.
He's developing.
Yeah. He's talking about it's not growing business, concern.
For over 8 months now, we've been waiting to run a 6-inch water line under the street to connect it so we can charge the fire suppression system. I would consider the offer highly speculative at this point. Probably more along the line of wanting to get it to see if somebody else is gonna want to pay more later for it. We want to see.
That's what should be.
We want to see that property go to its highest and best business use to benefit downtown and the city in terms of jobs, increased tax base and that kind of thing.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
what year was that we had that tore down?
It was at least 10 years ago, perhaps as many as
Okay,
15.
And it's been still set, with a big old for sale sign or lease sign on it.
I understand.
It looks like there's interest in it now.
Thing, you haven't had the kind of development activity that you have going on now.
Yeah, that's
Let
what
us
I'm
strike
saying.
while the iron is hot.
Kind of with going through the city, yes.
Well, why don't we think about doing a development? This authority?
I think that's out of our.
No, it's not. We can do a development. Am I right, Mark?
So
Okay, this is my
I think I'm hearing two things. Let me just capture these thoughts here. The first thing is that although this is our only property, it probably would be good to have some sort of a policy as to how we would dispose of properties, this one and others that you may come into ownership of. And that policy should in some fashion be tied very directly to the city's objectives and
Absolutely.
goals,
Absolutely.
economic development goals. And in this particular case, we should direct Mr. Bell, thank him for his continued interest, and direct him back to Mr. Little's office to
Okay.
discuss his plans.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Does that sound reasonable?
absolutely.
All right.
And while you're working on it, if I may, Madam Chair, working on that policy, can we from now on moving forward, I know I want the city to, anything we enter, that if something is not utilized for the purpose intended, that it reverts.
We'll put you right at the minute.
Reversionary clauses or clawback provisions are
Yes.
entirely appropriate,
Yes.
and they're used by many brownfield
We
authorities.
did have that once, didn't
We
we?
do.
That lady wanted to get it.
Yes.
and she had-
Well, I know when you're probably here.
That- that's right.
I'm trying to.
All right, anything else? Okay, good. Now, new business.
New business, winter tax disbursement. Finance director recently issued a check to the authority in the amount of about $5,415. We would like your permission to disperse $3,812.62 of that to the developers with whom you still have active reimbursement agreements. And those are listed in your agenda. That does not include, incidentally, $2,160 that we're continuing to capture on behalf of the city and/or Cornerstone Alliance with respect to the Market Street former flats area. Those funds we're still holding.
Okay. A question,
Motion, we'll get a motion to it. Do we need a motion on this?
motion to, no,
Can we do both?
Yes, we need a motion. We're gonna have to go.
I have a question. Why is the city of Ben Harbor
Just a
Fidelity
moment.
Building still on?
Just a moment, Ms. Adams, you can have your question later.
Oh, okay, I thought we were,
Yeah,
And then a second, motion.
because I think we got two action items here.
support,
Okay, no, she said,
Who made the motion?
you did,
No, I didn't.
who made the motion?
I asked if we could include item number
Wow,
I
one
can make a
here
motion.
and number two in the same resolution.
motion by Ms. Warren, supported by Mr.
Well, he wants to do both of them. No, we just do them separate.
Mr. Hudson, from an administrative and documentation standpoint, I prefer to keep them separate.
Okay, okay,
Separate.
Thank you.
so move.
Okay, who made the motion? You did,
I
Mr.
can,
Hudson?
I'll make it.
And then, Ms. One, you did the second.
Okay.
Now, the motion second. Now, do you have any questions, Commissioner Adams?
Why is, City of Benton Harbor Fidelity Building still on here?
Because we are still capturing funds from that redevelopment and reimbursing the city. The city is yet to be made whole on that. That's correct.
Say that again.
The city incurred expenses in the redevelopment of the Fidelity Building, asbestos removal and things of that sort.
Right.
Right.
And we released a check to them when we had other city management over $100 and some thousand. And we are still collecting?
Well, no, we released checks for other developments the city was involved in as well, such as the Gafford Oil.
Right. But the Fidelity Building was one in particular.
Yes, it's one of those, but
That they couldn't find receipts to, but they formed them, so we're still capturing.
we are still
And they're
capturing.
adding up again?
No, not again. We are whittling down the amount we owe, you still owe the city for their expenses on that building alone.
When did the city spend some dollars on that
Back
development?
when the building was redeveloped. You're
The city
talking
of
about
Ben
years
Harbor
ago.
Literally spent city funds?
That's correct.
that
We
development?
have the documentation of the
I was
receipt.
just
I
gonna say, I
need
think
that.
she's requesting documentation.
I need that.
Request it. Let's
I
keep
need
going.
that.
We have that.
please. Thank you. That's what's been missing.
Thank you, Commissioner Hudson. Did you have, Ms. Hudson,
Hmm.
did you have a question? Any other concerns?
Yes, that
Okay.
particular building that they're talking about, when did they start, cleaning the asbestos, as you're saying,
Yes, and
out of there?
I don't know the exact date, but I believe it was it was right around 2003. So this goes back a long ways.
It wasn't that far. It was late 2000s.
Well, like I say, I'm guessing.
remember a young man that, out when we were walking through there, when they were working on it, big older gentleman, I ran into him a couple of months ago. And we had a very lengthy conversation. He was the project manager.
Yeah.
And I was asking him questions about, why is this framed up so closely, the kitchen so closely to, back somewhere where, so far from the exit?
Yeah.
With it
Commissioner
being
Adams,
older people.
Commissioner Adams, you have real good thoughts and real good concerns. Ms. Kennard had the floor, and you talked over her. Ms.
Well, no, I
Kennard-
wasn't finished, but.
No, you was too. And if she had the floor, Ms. Kennard, are you finished?
Yes, I was just wanting to ask, what is intended for that building? After the,
It's apartments and,
It's
retail and,
it's already been redeveloped. It's been redeveloped for a
it's
number
been
of
redeveloped?
yeah,
years.
Five Corners building. Fidelity,
That's out there, right?
So
by
there's
that.
apartments, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
senior.
And the
And what
work,
used to be the five corners right out here.
the work was done in 2002. So I
Was
was,
it
I was
2002?
correct, 2002.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So
But I was
are
thinking that,
are we going to table
Just a
this,
moment. Yeah.
until they
No,
receive this
she said she
information?
has
or
still
what
have
we
the floor.
going?
Are you finished, Ms. Kennard, are you finished?
one other thing, I had in mind that you were thinking, we were talking about the building over there, the Fidelity building.
No.
I think it was where we used to have votes counted and things of that sort.
Five Corners.
No, she's talking about the post office.
You're thinking of the old federal building.
Yes, that's the building I had.
Oh, this gonna shed some light on some stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
So we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded by Ms. Warren.
Any other questions, concerns?
Mark, you have that document.
Just a moment, Ms. Adams, you want the floor? Do you want
You
to?
act,
Okay, now, you can have the floor.
thank you, Madam Chair, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, go
You're
ahead.
so gracious, I really, I do, I really appreciate that.
Now, go ahead.
And it's so good to have you here with us this evening.
I'm glad to.
It
now,
really
go ahead.
is,
Go
yes.
ahead.
We'll be gone in about 3
Mark.
minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to thank you for bringing that back to my remembrance. And I look forward to that documentation because there was something recently publicized in the paper that's beginning to make sense now and I really need it like ASAP. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Any
So
other,
I
okay,
withdraw my motion.
withdraw your motion. Why?
Well, it doesn't seem as though they have the support that he has to give them to make their decisions.
That's not true. You ready to vote?
They just asked for more info.
Ooh,
This-
no, that has nothing to do with the,
Okay.
Okay,
oh God.
are we ready?
Ready to vote.
Ready, we're voting on the winter tax disbursement per the names on your
Make a
agenda.
motion to,
Okay,
release.
Kennard,
yes.
Yes,
Adams,
yes.
Hudson,
Release it.
Edwards is gone. Warren
Yes.
and Hall.
Yes. Mhm.
Motion carries. Next
Two.
item. Let me get to that. Next item is local remediation revolving fund deposits, again, from the winter tax capture. We would like to deposit a total of $8,049 in your local remediation revolving fund. And the reason that we don't do these two items jointly is because we need a track record for our accountant, we need a track record for our bankers to know why we're dividing these funds up. They come to us in one big check. We need to divide into two different accounts. So that's the reason for two different motions here. So we're looking for your approval to make that deposit.
So
Need a
moved.
motion? Second.
Second.
Okay, now,
Mark,
Commissioner Adams?
if I may, thank you, Madam Chair. For the reason you just explained, and just correct me if I'm wrong, are they separated like that on our accounts payable that's on our documents that we receive?
No. Your account,
Can we get that from now on?
certainly,
Thank you. Separate them like that too for our viewing. The
understood.
same way the bank gets it. So we know the differentiation one between the other.
Anything else, Commissioner?
That's pretty much it. Well, one other question, with this revolving fund, with the local remediation revolving fund, is that the fund that allows residents to come before us and get a small interest loan that you were mentioning earlier, like the downtown development for?
Yes, that is where the funds would come from. That's where the funds came from that you used to assist Cornerstone in their development activity.
And it was a small interest loan?
It's where those were the same, you have the ability to loan it, you have the ability to grant it in some situations.
Okay.
In the case of the city of Benton Harbor, for the
See.
Ox Creek, that's where the funds come
Okay,
from.
now this takes us back into a conversation that we had earlier about this property. Because we gave Cornerstone 130, 160
130,
thousand,
130.
130, 130,000.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we had the small business owner, we can go back there. Thank you, Mark.
Longer.
No.
I'm looking for the TV cameras around.
No,
But you
it's over
gotta-
there.
Yeah, but based on what you said, the city wanted that building to stand. So we gave.
Well, I was one
Yeah,
that
you
did
were.
not want it demoed
Me.
because I saw the potential in it,
Absolutely.
but it was they that came forward and insisted on tearing it down. So, okay, if you're going to do that, because there were some people that were interested from Ann Arbor. And I brought that to the attention of the then elected officials. And I just began to think that something strange was going on.
That's
but,
been seconded.
Okay, Commissioner?
No, we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded.
No, but yeah, she gonna have a right.
She's
I'm
making a
done.
statement, that was not a question.
Are you finished?
But I still wasn't finished, so hold on.
Are you finished? You finished, Ms. Adams?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other, okay, Ms. Canal?
And this brings me back to when I first came on board, it was brought to my attention about the $130,000. That was when I thought that, when they decided to go ahead and fix the building up, but it had been loaned to tear the building down. I thought that should have been brought back to stay on point, brought back to Brownfield, and for them to release a new contract that they're going to.
I have called the question.
So that was one of the things that was a problem to me. And I'm hoping that as we go forward, that we do business a little different than just assuming that they change their mind. And the contract says to tear it down, bring it back and say, well, we're gonna return their money. We wanna, redevelop that building.
All right,
She's redeveloped.
ready to,
Mr. Hudson called the question.
okay, call the roll.
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Kennard,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now, Mr. Hudson, just because you through talking, somebody else might want to talk too.
Yeah, but it has to be on relevant issues. We're not here for
He's
talking.
probably been
They
working
can
harder
go
than
and
any
listen
of
to
us.
themselves.
Okay, number 3.
He's been
Here
working
for
All right.
harder than any of us today, so. no argue.
Okay.
He's
Better than
trying to tell you,
television.
just-
Technical advisors contract. Technical advisors contract. This issue was raised by Ms. Adams with respect to my contract. My contract with your authority expires on June 30th of this year. You have the ability, should we choose jointly to extend that contract. If that's something that you would like to do, I would be happy to do that. I would love to do that. If it's not something that you would like to do and you'd like to seek other proposals, find out what else is out there, I'm prepared to assist you in that regard as well, and have already prepared a request for proposals and cost estimates.
Okay.
Just need some direction.
Okay, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Oh, you just gracious this evening. Thank you, ma'am. I brought this up, Mark, because sometimes we're taking care of business and time is flying so fast and we don't realize that something is about to end. And then we have this waiting period and things don't look right
Mhm.
business-wise. So I wanted to know exactly when it was because I just totally forgot when we gave you the
Okay.
contract. And didn't have time to look over all the years of papers I got. But to know that it's June 30th, and you explained exactly what I needed to hear. And that's that if we wanted to keep you, you would be more than willing to stay because I want to know your mindset.
He just said.
I would be pleased to, I'd be honored to, and rates would remain unchanged.
Okay.
My suggestion would be that we do it for an 18-month period.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is then near the end, the last 6 months of that period is when you have your annual reporting with MEDC, and it's also when you have your summer tax capture. During that period of time, I think a transition should occur, and it would allow me or enable me to work with another person, whether it's in-house or whether it's going to be another consultant from the outside.
Okay, and this was a question that I had along with that. As our consultant, is one of your jobs or duties in helping us to see or know if funding becomes available from the federal government?
Yes.
Okay, and I asked that question because our secretary has made this large announcement that funding
Mhm.
for various things, and when I heard him mention Brownfield, I'm like, yes, maybe we can get some projects going somehow, some way.
For the benefit of the other members, Ms. Adams reached out to me privately on this, and I responded privately in an email. And the key to funding is having a project, as Mr. Little knows very well. If you have a project, but for funding or but for something that needs funding, you have the ability to go out and ask for funds. But just asking for funds without having a project
Exactly.
is a waste of time.
And see, thank you, because I need Mr. Little to actually hear that today, because I don't be fighting you. It's just that I be doing so much behind the scene and investigating and Googling and keeping up with following the money, state, locally, and federally, that I try to put these things together. And when that happens, we have and we need to work on some more shovel readiness. Thank you.
Mr.
I would
Yeah.
suggest in all respects to Mr. Florian that he submit his documentation, okay, at our next meeting. We can peruse it, and anybody has a problem with it, let him know at that time, and we can keep it moving.
The only thing it would be if you want to change to 18 months instead of 12 months.
I think it was 18 months in the last
Okay,
one.
well, it's all
Pretty
said,
close.
Same thing.
See,
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we
well,
would.
we can vote on that today.
Madam Chair, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that vote of confidence, if you will, but I would rather, for
Respect.
purposes of the
Yeah.
record,
Okay.
get you something that you can respond to. I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
thank you, Mark.
Okay, any other questions, concerns? Ms. Anderson?
Okay, I would like to ask, Mr. Ford, is there a way that we could get the phone numbers of all the board members? And I'd also like the contact number from you. And not only that, that we hopefully in the coming, the rest of this year, that we have a more frequent meetings, you know, more on point, because it seems like there's a lot of things that's going on. And we need to be on top of everything. And if we could get our packets a little bit earlier, so we can do a little bit of research and even converse with one another, so that we can have a clear understanding as to what's going on. If I don't understand it, I can always give you a call and get a little more clarity. So when I'm here, I can be on point in asking questions and get a more clear understanding from the entire board.
I try and get your packets out about a week in advance, Thursday or Friday of the week before. For the persons that have email, and I know you have email also, those typically go out on Thursday or Friday of the week before. I think last week they went out on Friday morning. Ms. Hull does not have email. I deliver hers to her, and I deliver you a copy as well. And in this particular case, I didn't get yours out until Monday morning, delivery
Something of
wise.
this size is a little much for me. I'm not as.
It's a little much for me too.
Yeah.
I had to go to Staples to have those copied.
I'd like to add something, just very quickly, a couple more shovel-readies that our director made mention of, which was this depot property as well as Mercy. Those are shovel-ready.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
We're looking for contaminants to be cleaned up.
If I can make a comment before you adjourn.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I want to comment two things. One being, when I mentioned earlier, it's time to pull all the parties together and get Brownfield involved with Ox Creek. And if there's funds that would be available through Brownfield to help support their project, would be welcome. I also wanted to say that, just on the record, the city certainly recommends your staying with Mr. Florian. Institutional memory is invaluable. A perfect example of that is when I got back here and started working on the project, I started pulling up the maps of ownership, and I didn't recognize them because property in there that I know back in the late 80s, I had purchased that belonged to this city, had somebody else's name on it. And we got it straightened out. It's
Okay.
now back where it should be, but nobody else would have recognized that.
Right.
Because there wasn't anybody else even involved in the city that would remember when it happened.
I don't think that Mr. Mark Florian needs you to advocate for him in this particular point.
I do appreciate it though.
It's rather overripe, but I think that what we need to do now is, because he can't even vote, so
Just,
let's get the paperwork and get it voted and keep it moving.
let's go back to the meeting dates Ms. Emma talked about. Now, if there is nothing that Mark can bring to us on the agenda, if he has nothing, I mean, nothing to vote on, nothing just to talk about, it's costly, which is okay.
Yeah.
But if you just wanna come here and talk, because
Okay,
you wanna meet and hash out stuff, he's available for any of you to call.
No.
But, it's up to the board, but I just can't see us meeting just to sit down and talk. I
And,
just
and,
cannot see that.
and I totally agree, and we're gonna fix that other one thing
Yes.
on paper, on the contract, when there is no meeting. Plant Moran does not get paid, just start from the month we left off in, and the month we're previously entering.
Yeah, it's
They
according
have
to
that
what's in the
meeting.
contract though.
I will
because-
contact them.
Yeah,
Because they have to do audits, they have to get other
Right.
yeah,
things together.
yeah,
They have other things they have to do. Now, let's take in mind that when even the city had
we
our.
don't need nobody making excuses for them and the way they do things, I think it's
But
double
I'm just
dipping.
saying, do we have a finance director in place in the city that they can take out?
No, we don't.
What does that have to do
No,
with
we
this
don't.
board?
We have a firm working for the city. We've been without a finance director per
years.
city charter
So
for years now, and it's out of order and out of line and very unacceptable to this elected servant.
Look, that has nothing to do with this board.
Yes,
So
it
I think
does.
that
We
should-
have to get our money. Somebody's got to put
And,
our
and
money.
we're not saying that they
They don't
don't.
have nothing to do with the
We're just
finance
saying that
director.
when we redo the contract, that it will state those meetings that we don't have, that you're
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
If we're not just getting together, come and talk, and ain't nobody got no business being paid.
That's right.
And that is well taken. What she is saying is the very conversation we're having right here now can take place on one of those Thursdays. Doesn't have to be an action day,
Exactly.
okay? So I think that what Ms. Kennard said has value. We don't always have to be taking action.
Exactly.
This conversation right here is leading to no action.
And
Well,
Let's
wait,
come here on Thursday and
no,
have-
Mr. Hudson,
I think
that
you
is not true.
misunderstood.
We have voted on 4 actions. We voted to pay
Excuse
payables.
me, now there you go.
No,
All I'm saying is what she made the point
if
of,
there
okay?
is nothing to
It's not an
do,
action item before, and she said we should be meeting every fourth Thursday
No.
as
well, but
it
she
is
is
set.
not,
Whoever doesn't wanna come, don't come.
she is not the chair.
She don't have to be the chair. She has as much voice as the chair.
No, we're not to call a meeting if there's nothing on the agenda.
Any of us can come here and meet if we so desire, because we can get some things done.
Well, okay, let's
If
take a
it's
vote.
a majority of a vote and a quorum that shows up, and our meetings are set
No, no, no,
for,
no.
I see what you're saying,
We can
I-
take
I
care of
get
our
what you're
business.
but, I mean, if we paying somebody
He
for
doesn't
that
have to
purpose,
be
then we
here.
might as well meet.
He doesn't have to be
Yes,
I mean,
here.
just,
Okay, so one hand, we're talking about Plant Moran copying and pasting, we paying Plant Moran. Now you guys are saying have a meeting and pay Mark for nothing.
Who said that? Are you pointing over here at me?
So who,
Who
I
did you hear
mean,
me say that?
I'm making a point.
I said
If nothing-
we
can I
as
finish?
a
If we
body,
don't have
but you need
anything
to
on
make
the
correct
agenda,
statements.
I mean,
it does not,
But
I
it
don't see
doesn't
it.
make sense
Why
to
would
me.
you meet?
Because
If
the
you
thing
wanna
we're
have
discussing
fun
right
and
now
have
was not on
coffee,
the
we'll take it
agenda,
to
but we're
Starbucks.
talking about it.
I'm not telling you. If it's not.
You don't
on
have
the
to come.
agenda,
I already
right,
said that.
perfect.
I said it would be for those who have concerns and want to come.
But if Ms.
You're not
Kennard,
listening.
Madam Chair,
You can
if Ms.
call her.
Kennard's concern is getting her paperwork, I would be more than happy, Mark, if you would just, communication is a key to a lot of things. Communicate to me that you can't get Ms. Kennard her, and I would be more than happy to get a copy and drop it off.
I drop it off at her house.
Okay, okay.
Motion to adjourn.
May I ask a question?
yes, just a moment.
My question is, with where we're getting to on things now, I anticipate there are gonna be some instances where I may have to get a hold of Mr. Ford and ask if he could attend some of our meetings or something.
At the city's cost, though, you'll,
Well, that's.
Yeah, damn, I don't say
That's my
that.
question. At Brownfield's cost.
No, we
No,
get
that
no
was
authority to
problem
that.
too.
And with that, I have to go.
That ain't on no
My
agenda.
Motion to adjourn is
Wait a
not.
minute.
that's not on the agenda.
Just a moment. Just a moment, Mr. Hudson.
Well, shoot, you kept talking about a whole bunch of things. that are on the agenda.
No, he asked the
It's
question.
not on the agenda.
What?
This board is an arm of the city. He is representing the city.
I
Mark,
represent the city too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Mark is the representative to this board. Now, if there is a connection of what is going to happen.
The city
he
should pay
wants-
Mark
There
what he's
you go.
paying,
Just common sense.
Yeah,
period.
and Mark
The
needs to
city.
be there. Mark is getting paid out of
They pay
Act
for everything
381.
No,
Yeah.
let me,
Getting paid out of Act
Getting
381?
paid by you, yes.
We- this
Yes,
board
by
thing.
law.
Per Act
Yes.
381.
Yeah, now if we want development and Mr. Little back then, economic development need to give us some
No, that
development
ain't
so
finna happen.
we can do some development. This,
Mr. Little knows
Wait a
his
minute.
rate. I'm
right
sure he
down
will
here,
keep it
this
consistent.
building down here, the old, A&P, nobody knows who that. They could have gotten some if they made a
Application.
application. Could have gotten some perks for that building down there. They remodeled it, but nobody knows.
What bill?
The OAMP down here, right next door to the filling station.
Oh.
If they come here, we'll address, but I don't know how we could be the next.
I explained all of that to them way before.
They didn't want no Brownfield?
They didn't,
Look,
and not everybody does.
Okay.
Novo didn't want any either.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
One thing I want to
See you next time. Well, if you wanna meet, you should.
That's
stay
what I'm
here and
saying,
meet.
because
You should
the
stay here and
conversations
meet.
that we're having now is
Mr.
not
Hudson,
action
thank
items.
you.
You
We
should
can
stay
meet on
here.
Thursday.
Appreciate you.
The one
And
thing-
whoever doesn't want to be here don't have to be here.
Okay,
Exactly.
You
goodbye.
see? Okay,
The one
Thank
thing
you, you
I
are
didn't
moving.
want any conflict about what I asked, the question I asked.
Yeah.
As much peace as we can have among
Yeah.
ourselves,
We got.
we can get things done. I know it, but it was back and forth thing. So I just asked that, and I didn't want to cause any conflict.
And
So
you didn't.
Y'all, please,
You did.
forgive me if it,
No,
No,
Ms.
it was
Kennard,
clarification. that you just-
Madam Chair, I think we cleared up the matter.
Yes.
Because the matter was the mere fact that Ms. Kennard once upon a time heard me mention that we're paying Plant Moran for meetings that we didn't have in a given month. And so in her mind, she's thinking that we might as well be meeting if we're paying them anyway. But if there's no action items or agenda items, it doesn't make sense for us to meet. So in turn, we're going to put that in their contract after we look it over and make sure that we can do something for those months. If it's acceptable to them, and if not, we'll seek someone else. Those months that we don't meet, they don't get paid any longer. Okay?
Madam Chair, I need clarification, and so does Mr. Little, I'm sure.
Yes.
If he thinks that someone representing this authority should be present at a meeting, and he suggests that I attend, how do you want to handle that?
I think the city should pay for it. We just
Well-
allotted the Department of Economic Development 2 more hires. They're not there. So in the near future, if he needs you, he should be able to utilize those dollars until those replacements come in. He shouldn't need you that much.
Madam
Just a
Respected.
moment. The city is paying for it because this authority belongs to the city.
Thank you. I would hope that people would recognize.
No, we're gonna have a
Because
vote
when
on
you
that
talk
and put it on
about
the
the
next agenda.
positions that we have, that position is CDBG. I can't put another activity,
He's a-
economic development activity.
Don't
on
you
it.
write grants?
Even my salary is half CDBG and half city. But what I'm trying to do here, when we are bringing some of these together, and we've had some meetings recently where I felt like we were missing something, not having a representative from this agency there.
But that's why
but
I'm here.
No, you're not. When he's
He's
the
the staff.
executive person
Yeah.
there. Because we have the DDA represented, we have the planning commission represented, we would like to have Brownfield represented. And we're not talking about a wasteful situation that's
Wait a
gonna occur weekly or in a long time or anything.
Okay, have you not attended these meetings in times past with the overall Berrien County of bringing everybody together? You sit on what authority is that? I mean,
And he got paid.
Township?
how do you know?
He got paid.
I mean, wait, you don't know that.
Yes, he did.
He got paid for what?
For his hours that he put, everything Mark did, he got
No, I'm
paid.
not talking about that, Ms.
Oh,
Hall,
okay, I'm
please,
sorry.
please.
Well, I'm sorry.
You were on some other board working with, what's his name? That was over our authority for the, harbor.
For Harbor Shores?
No, Benton Harbor and St. Joe, River Authority. What's his name?
Dan
Not that
Fetty?
board itself,
Dan
but-
Fetty?
Yeah, Mr. Fetty.
Yeah.
You were, it was some board, and I forgot what it was, but it was massive where everybody came together. I just don't think that it's fair, right, and no one person is going to make that decision. It's going to be this board, and I just suggest that Mark put it on the next agenda.
Well, I'm gonna suggest something to you.
Okay.
And I know you're all concerned about time, so I want to get this out You can sign checks, please.
Oh.
This authority has said in meetings past with respect to Ox Creek project and other projects that you've been involved with, that you wanted to have a seat at the table. You want to have a seat at the table. And what gets you a seat at the table? What gets you a seat at the table is money. Well, you've already contributed money. You committed to, you pledged money for the Ox Creek. But Mr. Little is inviting you to have a seat at the table. Now,
He's our seat at the table.
any one of you
I'm a seat at the
are going to
table,
have a seat at the table.
and it doesn't
But
cost us a
with all,
dime.
with, I understand that, but with all due respect, you are not going to be able to communicate with Eagle, with,
Says who I-
with
I do
Carrie,
every-
with
I do
Carrie
every-
Geyer on the technical issues,
That's
on the technical issues.
Oh, okay, then that's where I can let you
That's,
know that you
that's
need
the
it.
only, that's the value, is the technical issues and the funding issues with respect to
I see
Brownfield.
money disappearing and it don't smell right.
It's up to you.
I mean, are we talking, how would something, explain to me how that looks? What does it look like financially? To have to call upon Mark?
Probably an hour's time, maybe a couple of times in a month, maybe.
How much an hour?
I charge you $125.
An hour. And you could just utilize it for a whole 8 if you chose. I don't think so.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, can I go?
I think
Well,
that we,
It's up to
I
you
think
all.
that that
Can I
would
get a
be
comment, Ms. Cole?
Yes.
She's not.
what she.
a great job for a new environmentalist that's in the area. A young man that really wants to get involved. I think that's a perfect opportunity for somebody like him to pull up a chair. A young guy that used to work with Abinmarsh by the name of Ogden,
He cannot speak for the Brownfield Authority.
if we gave him authority to, he could.
If you know enough information.
No way. No way.
How do you know?
Because I'm.
Well,
the
we need to
person
give him, we need
talking.
to, we need to get him in here and give him a presentation as well.
Okay, Mr. Warren.
Yeah.
So my, I don't know why I was waiting for it, it's okay, so my comments are, I mean, we talked about the lot that Mr. Bell wants, and we
Yeah.
just had a conversation that Mr. Little and Mark could work together. I think it would be a good idea
Thought
for
they was
Mark to
working
attend,
together
but what
already.
I would say, since everyone's very cautious with spending money, you could put some parameters down. You could say, okay, we can allocate at the most 5 hours a month.
There you go.
If it goes over 5,
There you go.
can you alert the
There
authority
you
and
go.
get approved?
Perfect.
That's what I
mean,
said, have Mark to come,
That would be,
yeah, put something
So that's
together.
what, we could do something like that.
Thank
I
you.
don't think
that
that,
would be,
I mean,
Thank you,
No,
voice
I-
of reason. Thank
I
you.
tried.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yes, and you have a right, whoever, if we get the votes, this is how we vote.
This is what I love.
Yeah.
I love when we have a voice of
Yes,
reason
and we
in
can.
a room
That's
that
right.
can lower the temperature.
I think it's, we've got all females
Yeah,
up at
that's
the,
right,
at the
that's
board
right.
right now. So see how you're taking care of business.
Yeah.
And guess what? We're the ones that's gonna change stuff in America. If you guys would just listen. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
If the
All
male
all I'm
species.
saying is, we wanna move things, this is the arm of the city, totally the arm of the city. This is not, we're on the board, and we are autonomy, we can make some decisions. But basically, it's what the city would like to see happen. And we could help make it happen through Act 381. I would like to see Mark, I would like to see some more development come through, because we just been stalemated a little bit.
I would like to see some more training for my residents in the
Absolutely.
community. We keep spending money. The
Absolutely.
city agreed to get Manchester Bidwell up in here to work with all other entities that's training, but I don't see that happening either.
Well,
And they're the one, because we should have one trained right about now with the scholarships that have never been used at this board set forth to get ready and be prepared to take over a consultant job. What's up?
yeah.
What's
So-
up with that?
Can't do it. They changed the law.
I know. But no, I'm saying if we had been on our A game and not just putting stuff together on paper just for the sake of, but following through.
Yeah.
But I had to go back to that one thing called gentrification and understanding that all my skin folk ain't my kinfolk.
Okay. Is there
It helps
anything
with
else?
that endeavor.
Anything else we need?
One last thing,
Okay, Marcus.
Madam Chair and Ms. Kennard, you two are up for reappointment by City Commission. The city's policy requires you, even if it's a reappointment, to fill out an application. I discussed this, I don't want to say argued, but I discussed this very strongly with the clerk, the city's new clerk. Clerk's directive is follow the policies. So you will be getting a hard copy of an application, and I ask that you please fill that out and bring it to the next meeting.
And will you send us those appointments with the years up on them?
I will, and I'll include the telephone numbers that Ms. Kennard asked for.
Thank you all very much.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
Mr.
evening.
Little.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Little.
Mark, thank you.
To do the
Very well.
redevelopment
Always
of houses in the city, from the HUD money, CDGB,
Yes,
is that up now?
It
And
is.
everybody made the application?
it is open to receive
How
applications.
much is it now? 25, 17 per
Uh,
house?
it's the minor one is 5,000 up to 25,000.
Up to 25,
If,
according to what they want. And Scott was
And-
just thinking about.
In fact, I'm gonna next meeting, because I didn't want to take too much time, but I want to report to you about, the lead removal, lead.
Can you put that on our agenda?
Because we just got
Yes.
approval from the state. We've been pushing to get money for some of them that have larger amounts to, and we just got approved with the grant to start doing a couple of the projects.
So I think I'm one of them, because they came out and to get quotes, the contractors came out today.
Okay, so there was a two-part process. Hold on, we're gonna talk about that. But this morning at our meeting, our regular weekly meeting, I made mention, and when the guy at EPA, he was like, he didn't know anything about EPA being partnership with the city of Benton Harbor, because I was explaining to him what you were saying was available at yesterday's Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting.
What part of EPA was this person from? Were they the people?
They
out
were
there
talking
with
about
water and stuff?
the lead removal program in-home, the program that you described.
No, there are two different ones going on, and they.
And wait a minute, I'm aware of that, and he just said that he would check and we'd get back together. We're gonna touch base offline, I'm waiting for an email. And we'll get it together, because I wanna be able to inform the residents as to what's what without confusion before I go to trying to explain something to them.
See, this one doesn't really require the residents to do anything. What happens is, if a person applies and is eligible for rehab, HUD, if any of the work we're gonna do will disturb lead.
Okay,
We have to remediate it first,
and granted,
and this money will help us to do that.
okay, one of the qualifications, is it requesting the income of the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, well, this one isn't. And that's been my fight on these phone calls. I'm tired. Well, I'm tired.
Well,
I'm sorry, y'all.
it's
The bureaucracy of red tape. They know that this is predominantly Black community, people that have been redlined out of housing, living in housings that's full of lead, that was built way back when, that was full of lead, asbestos, and some even contaminants of mold. But that's something that has been removed, and we have some lobbyists that is about to walk the Capitol and demand more red tape be removed from a lot of services for all Americans. I mean, look at the millions and billions of dollars that we sending over for a war. And we don't even know if we're gonna run out of gas up the street.
You're saying they trying to take away the income requirement, right?
No, this one did take away the income requirement. But there's several programs, and I just need to differentiate.
And that's exactly the
Yeah.
point. There's several programs, each one has
Yeah.
different rules and
Exactly.
limitations.
And that's
I
something,
think I know the program, I saw that.
Is it any way possible that you could get
Yeah,
a little more?
and we're gonna fix it to where if one don't fix one thing, that same applicant should be able to apply for something over here that they didn't have funding to fix. See, all that stuff needs to be just fixed. It's the,
I can look into it.
Americans are
I can-
stressed
I
enough
can
having to
find
work
out
40
what the city
hours a week and
knows about
sometimes 70.
what his
When in
department
some
knows
community-
about
in
it
some
and what U of
countries,
M
people
might
work
know about it.
20
I
hours
have
and
a contact
relax.
at the U of M who's working on this,
Okay.
and I can
I'll make
ask.
a report to you on the next
Okay.
meeting. and
Thank
try
you,
to give
Mr.
some
Little.
of the-
Appreciate that. We had a good meeting.
Did y'all?
And a little bit of
Always
follow
have
going back in and all that good stuff.
All right, you all have a great evening.
Oh, listen, did you pay the bill?
I never did. I
Oh,
kind of
wait,
hate
I forgot to turn this on.
Yeah, I could, I needed these, like, my rent is $27, did I tell you that? That's way too much, $27.